Let me thank the convener, Pastor Larry Olusheye, and every other person who has been behind this. Let me also appreciate the privilege, the opportunity that I have to join you in this conference to share some thoughts. I've been asked to speak on operating at scale, decisions that sustain performance. Decisions that sustain performance. And I'll try and be as practical as I can, but I'll also be sharing a couple of things that I think will be useful. There are many things to speak about on decisions that sustain performance. And I admit that I will not be able to cover all. But my plan is to lay the foundation. My plan is to provide a framework that you can use to approach it, trusting that the interaction time after this session will give us an opportunity to cover the specifics that I might not be able to speak to. Angelumaya, a poet, very deep person, is credited with the saying, even though I tried to find the quote, but I could not. But nonetheless, the statements are true. What is that saying? Ambition generates drive. Consistency creates credibility. And where you have both of them coming together, you get greatness. Ambition generates drive. Consistency creates credibility. And where you have both of them, greatness is inevitable. And let me talk about each of them as I kick this off. Ambition generates drive. You will never rise to the height of your potential if there is no ambition. But this is an ambition that has limits. It is regulated by principles, and I say they are godly principles. It is not one that is willing to sacrifice people. It is not one that is prepared to step on people, kill others' dreams, and for others to step aside for you to rise. No, it is one that plays by the books. It is one that recognizes as well that ultimately God blesses the works of our hands when we honor him in the pursuit of our dreams. It's an ambition that goes beyond you as an individual. It is one that is deep-rooted in purpose. In theology, we talk about the sovereignty of God, but we also talk about human responsibility. And in Scripture, you find both of them go hand in hand. You can't collapse one for the other because that's what the Scripture teaches. So allow me, Genesis chapter 50. We know about the story of Joseph. Joseph was sold by his brothers. And eventually, I think it was in chapter 48, the brothers started feeling, after they had gotten to the land of Egypt, that this guy might likely take it back on us. And they went and told him all sorts of stories, please forgive. And Joseph said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. It's a classical case where there is human responsibility, but you see the sovereignty of God in play as well. And when their father died, they went to him and they said, our father left an instruction before he died. This is what you have to say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they have committed in treating you so badly. When Joseph heard this, he said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intend to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. The brothers were responsible, but God has a plan. As human beings, we have responsibilities. Because God is sovereign does not mean we fold our hands. Many times we don't make progress because we undermine our responsibilities and we just hope solely in the sovereignty of God. Part of your responsibility is your ambition. It is what gets you up in the morning and it's what keeps you late at night. It is the fuel for your soul to reach higher than the ordinary. Diligence is part of that key growth. Showing up every day, putting in the shift is part of it. Growth in itself is never comfortable. The scripture says in the morning, sow your seed. In the evening, don't withhold your hand. Except for you don't know which one will prosper, whether it's the one in the morning or the one in the evening. Ambition generates drive. Consistency builds credibility. Achievements and accomplishments that are noticed, they are not just a flash in the pan. They are repeated over and over again. If you're going to be entrusted with anything significant or have somebody place a bet on you, it will not just be down to one or two performances. It is going to be because organization sees repeatability in what you do. Where it's seen, credibility can be assured. It grants it. Consistency in every situation, whether it's in circumstances that are convenient, when the chips are down, when the going is good, tested in every circumstance, but quite dependable. There are people who are gifted, and while it is a strength, if not properly managed, the gift will undermine your progress. In the school of progress, gift and talent, they are overrated. But consistency, dependability, just repeating it is what gets you there. It trumps every other thing. So yes, it might take a talented person half the time that it takes you. But as long as you are consistent, as long as you keep showing up, you can be guaranteed that you will achieve results that endure. Where consistency in delivery becomes obvious, the foundation for credibility is laid. And where you see both of them, where you see ambition, where you see credibility, it produces greatness. Greatness, which is the end of a career, is achieved when these two intersect. Ambition, consistency. Greatness is not achieved by merely speaking or making declaration. It involves discipline, ambition, drive, consistency, and credibility. So today, as I address the issue of operating at scale, thinking through decisions that sustain performance, my submission is that it is not a microwave-baked meal. It's a product of a journey, one that is intentional, but one that builds you up for a future. There is no man that you will see that arrives at the pinnacle of his career without passing through the furnace of preparation. Many times we notice people when they are at the top, when we see them operating at scale, but the foundation for their position takes years and decades to build. Many times we see him operating at the top and we wish we want to be like him, but we must learn to put in the shift as that man or woman who did not arrive there overnight. There's a film that I remember that I watched, and I don't know how many of you have watched that film. It's called Captain Sullenberger. And this was a story about, and it's a true life story. It was a film, true life story, about a man who landed the plane, US Airways Flight 1549, on the Hudson River in January 15, 2009, and where he saved 155 lives. They had just taken off, they had achieved cruising altitude, and all of a sudden, boats entered the two engines and they lost both engines. He was not the main person that was piloting the plane, it was another person. But immediately it happened, he just took over control and he said, "My command." And then when he got in touch with Control Tower asked him to turn back and go somewhere else. But in his professional judgment, he recognized that that was more of an evil than taking an attempt to land it on the Hudson River. It was between buildings, quite a lot of people. And then he went for what he felt was the right thing. He landed it on the Hudson River. 155 lives were saved. But like you can imagine, in the aviation industry, there is an industry that learn from his errors, his mistakes. They x-ray it to death because they believe that if you don't learn from it, it can actually happen again. So when you see pilots, they will tell you that they thrive and exist on the blood of those that have gone before them. And so while they set up this panel of inquiry, trying to understand what happened and why did he disobey the control tower. Again, the aviation industry is one where there is strict regulation. If you ever seen the pilot, it doesn't matter the number of times he had flown a plane, he goes through his checklist in a very regimented way. Even if he had done it for 20 years, 30 years, he will start from line 1 till he gets to the last line. So this panel of inquiry sat down. And they tried to find a fault and believe that Sullenberger was guilty. And while they were doing that, they carried out simulation, professional simulation, And those simulations showed that you could actually land that, you could take that plane back, and you could survive. And Sullenberger at one point said, well, you're looking for human error. Why don't you make it human? You behaved as if immediately the bird struck, this man was able to think. But when you have a situation like that, you have a delay. And that delay takes you some time to process it before you kick into action. So they introduced a 45-second delay. And when they introduced that, none of the simulators was able to safely land that plane. And then the jury came to the conclusion and said, we can see the reason why this life was saved was just because of you. Sullenberger went ahead and said to the people, it's not just me, it's my crew. But of course, you know that for every success of an industry like that, particularly of such an expedition, you need to talk to the captain who handled it. But hear what he said. He said, one way looking at this might be that for 42 years, and he was talking about 42 years of his career, I've been making small, regular deposits in this bank of experience, education, and training. And on January 15, the balance was sufficient so that I could make a large withdrawal. What people saw was a man that saved lives, but what they did not see was the 42 years of career that got him there. So my intention is not to give you a microwave edition of how to scale, but to help you structure yourself on your journey to ensure that you are prepared for the place of your ambition and the place of your destiny. In doing that, I have structured it along the lines of 3 Ps, not public-private partnership, no, but I'm talking about process, purpose, and passion. So if you want to take note, you can use those 3 pillars to anchor your thoughts. Process, purpose, passion. Rick Warren is another author that I so much admire. He wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, Purpose-Driven Church. And one of the things he said in his book, Purpose-Driven Life, he said, life is a test, life is a trial, life is a temporary assignment. And while I agree with that, I've also come to realize that life and living is a process. There is absolutely nothing we do that we cannot put or decompose into a process. Progress and performance is driven through the faithful execution of the process. Life is a process, and if you're going to drive performance, it's how you execute that process. And you can think of process in its very basic form. Engineering would say there is an input, there is a processor, and there is an output. So I can bring air in, there's a compressor that produces the chilled temperature that we have here. There is an input, there is a processor, there is an output. And then we have open processes, which is how many of us live our lives. You just put in the input, don't worry so much about the processor, you get an output. And many of us live that so open-ended that today we're not making progress because of how we're living it. But there are also closed processes. Closed processes is one where you get a feedback loop from your output into your processor. And what that feedback is doing is measuring the output and is comparing it. Is this what you want? If you say it's not what I want, then there has to be an adjustment either on the input or on the processor itself. Our lives must be a life that is outcome focused. It can't be that you get up and you say, today I don't do my own. Now the company, they hold me. You will not make progress. That's an open process. Life can be seen as a process. In everything you do, think about the outcome. And what keeps you restless is whether the outcome is being achieved or not. Every process also has a sub-process. Achieving your ultimate outcome will depend on several small processes that without their own success, without their successful outcome, you will not be able to achieve your objective. So today, we have clocks that are digital. But for those of us that have existed for a while, you remember the ones that has the 2 hands that move. One measures the hour, one measures the minutes. If you go behind those clocks, you are most likely going to see a wheel, many wheels that moves. We don't see it, but if the wheel doesn't move well, we're not likely to have the right time outcome. But sometimes, some of those wheels is not just one singular wheel. You have other sub-wheels that move under them. That the problem might not be big with the main wheel, but it might be that some of those other smaller wheels are the ones that are not working in the right way for you to be able to get the outcome that you need. So if your clock is misbehaving, the challenge might not necessarily be with the big wheel. You might need to work on the smaller wheel to achieve your outcome. It's a system, but it's also a process. And the final system consists of many processes. Let me give a few more illustrations to press this home. You can't learn in the university if you have not gone through primary and secondary education. Will you agree with me? It's not possible. You can't study your course of choice if you have not done the primary school and done the secondary school. So if I want to study, let's say, electrical, electronics engineering, which I believe is the best course in the world, you can't do that except you have gone to primary school or you have gone to secondary school. It's a process. You cannot make a first class by just waking up in your final year and having a star all through if at the beginning of your first year, second year, third year, you have not done it well. It's a process. And the process, what it does, as you drive performance through it, is that you start right from the beginning and you sustain it. So if my goal is to make a distinction, I must be very intentional right from my first year all the way to my final year. Even though the potential might be there, if the discipline is not there, excellence will elude you. Every test, every assessment, every exam must be at the right level to get you there. It's the same thing at work. Excellence has to be your watchword and your standard. You must constantly engage with your outcome to ensure it delivers the standards that you want. And you need to do that repeatedly. You must approach your career with a long-distance mentality, recognizing that it is brick by brick, it is block by block. Progressively, you will have clarity on the pathway to the top, but you must put in the daily discipline that enables you to learn, enables you to develop, and to grow your muscles and your capacity to be able to operate at scale. And for every assignment that you get involved in, there must be clarity on what this is meant to do to you, but there must also be a desire for you to maximize your learning from it. Whether it's the good, the bad, the ugly, all of them have a place in your preparation. And one thing you must also realize and appreciate is that if you fail to learn from a particular task, from a particular role, it's going to hinder your progression and your judgment in the future. Every task you do is preparing you for the next one. So how you engage with it is extremely important. You cannot approach it with a victim mindset, even though the outcome or circumstance is negative. There is a saying that if life throws lemon at you, what should you do? Make lemonade out of it. That's the mindset of a process. A lot of tasks that we get, and many of them we don't like them, they are preparation opportunities for our journey. Think about David. What gave him the confidence that he could face Goliath? Everybody, including Saul, the king, dissuaded him and reminded him of how he stood zero chance, whether it's in stature or in military experience. But David responded with confidence and spoke to the execution of his task while keeping his father's sheep. He said, when the lion came, I confronted it. When the bear came, I confronted it. As far as he was concerned, this Goliath was nothing ordinarily more than the lion or the bear that he has faced. He was the youngest of his father's children. He did not complain about the fact that it's not fair for him to be taking care of the sheep while his bigger brother seems to be enjoying himself. He embraced it. As undesired as it was a preparation. That is the process, and that process is the same for how progress is made at work. You don't have to like it. It doesn't have to feel good, but it has a place in your preparation as well. So the first thing that I want you to have in mind is the place of process. For Captain Sullenberger, It took him 42 years. For some other people, it might take less than that. But no matter how long it takes, take ownership for your learning and development in the various tasks and opportunities that you have. Strive for excellence and be ruthlessly focused on outcome. Where the outcome is not in line with your expectation, make the necessary adjustment and investment in either the input or in yourself as the process to get it right. That is the process. Let me talk a little bit about the second one, purpose. When we think about career growth, we often focus on the visible markers of success: performance, promotion, title, compensation, influence. Now, they are important because they reflect progress, they reflect achievement. But there's a deeper dimension to career progression. It's one that determines not just how far you go, but how meaningful the journey becomes. That dimension is purpose. Purpose answers a very fundamental question: why do I do what I do? Early in our career, the question is not always clear. Many of us begin with practical motivations. I want education, I want opportunity, I want financial stability. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a man called Maslow that developed the Maslow hierarchy of needs that talks at the very base of existential needs that has to be met. But as you then move up that ladder, you start getting to what is called self-actualization. As we grow, purpose becomes increasingly important. Because without purpose, careers can become a series of moves without direction, advancing but not necessarily fulfilling, achieving but not always meaningful. Purpose provides clarity. It's what helps you to make better decisions about the roles you accept and opportunities you pursue, about the environment you choose to be part of, but it's also one that acts as a compass for you, guiding you towards success, but also guiding you towards significance. In the early stages of our career, purpose often brings and begins as exploration. You're discovering your strengths, you're testing your interests, you are learning what energizes you, you're thinking about what does not. At this stage, purpose is not fully formed, but it's already being shaped. And as your career progresses, purpose starts getting defined the more. You begin to understand the kind of problems that you want to solve, the kind of impact you want to make, the kind of professional and person that you choose to become. And this clarity starts influencing your choice and your choices. You become more intentional, you say yes with greater conviction, and you say no with greater confidence. At more advanced stages of your career, purpose becomes amplified through leadership. It's no longer about your own individual contribution. It's about the impact you create and you make through others. You shape culture. You influence direction. You create opportunities for people to be able to grow and to succeed. And perhaps most importantly, you start building a legacy. So when you talk about purpose, purpose is never static. It evolves as you grow, as your experience deepens, and as your perspective broadens. What mattered to you 10 years ago may no longer drive you today. It doesn't mean that you have changed. It's just the evolution of purpose, and that is growth. So the responsibility then for you and I is to stay aligned, to periodically step back and ask, am I still on a path that reflects what matters most to me? Is my work contributing to something that I believe in? Because when you have a misalignment between purpose and career, that's what leads to frustration, what leads to disengagement, and what leads to stagnation, even when everything else looks successful on the outside. And at the same time, purpose must be grounded in reality. Not every role will feel meaningful every day. Not every task will be inspiring. But purpose is found in those isolated moments. It's found in the broader impact of what you do over time. And this is where discipline comes in. Purpose gives direction, but discipline ensures progress. Purpose defines the why, but execution delivers the work. The most impactful careers are built when purpose and performance come together. So as you reflect on your own journey, I want you to think about this. Are you pursuing opportunities that align with what matters to you, or you are simply doing what is available? Are you making choices based on clarity or just based on convenience? Are you building a career that not only succeeds, but also signifies? Because in the end, career progression is not just about moving forward. It's about moving with intention. It's about aligning your talents with meaningful contribution. It's about ensuring that success creates values, not just for yourself, but for others. And when purpose is at the center of your career, progression becomes much more than advancement. It becomes impact. So wherever you are on your journey today, take the time to refine, to reflect, and also to live your purpose. Let that purpose guide your decisions. Let it shape your growth. Let it anchor your career in something that truly matters. Because career built on purpose don't just reach higher. They reach further and they endure. Purpose. Let me talk about the third one, passion. Passion. When we think about advancing in our careers, the usual factors that comes to mind, experience, performance, network, sometimes timing, all of this matter, but there is another factor that often determines how fast we grow, and more importantly, how fulfilled we feel along the way. That is passion. Now, let's be very clear. Passion in itself is not strategy. You cannot substitute passion for competence. You cannot replace discipline with enthusiasm. And you cannot build a sustainable career on excitement alone. Passion plays a critical role, but it's how every other thing comes together. Passion is what drives you to go deeper, not just wider. It's what pushes you to master your craft long after everybody had given up. It keeps you learning, it keeps you improving, it keeps you stretching when everybody said, I'm comfortable. In the early stages of your career, passion shows up as curiosity, a willingness to ask questions, a desire to understand how things work, an openness to take on challenges that may not come with immediate rewards. And this is where career starts differentiating. So you can see 2-3 people that join at the same time, same profile. What differentiates them over a period of time is the passion that the person brings in. Because that's what draws together your purpose as well as help you with your ambition. As you progress, passion also starts to evolve. It becomes less about proving yourself and more about developing the expertise, but also creating impact. You start to take ownership. You care not just about what you do, but how well it's done. You build a reputation not just for delivery, but also for excellence. Every time people talk about you, there's only one word that they use to describe you: excellent. And then when you get to more senior levels, passion takes on another dimension. It shifts from personal achievement to purposeful leadership. You begin to invest in others. You derive satisfaction from building teams, mentoring talent, but also creating the environment where others can succeed. Your passion is no longer about your career. It's about the legacy you are building through people. While I was growing up, people talk about legacy and they said, leave legacy for your children. And we keep asking, what do you mean by legacy? For some, it's the investment. For some, it's the houses. For some, it's what's in the bank account. But somebody defined legacy. He said, legacy is not what you leave behind for people. Legacy is what you leave in people. That long after you are gone, it continues to live in them. Passion is not always constant. There will be seasons in your life when the energy dips, where work becomes routine, where challenges feel repetitive, or where programs seems to be normal. That is normal. The key is not to wait for passion to appear, but it's how do you re-engage it intentionally. And sometimes it might mean you look for new challenges, you learn a new skill. It might mean reconnecting with the impact of your work and allow the excitement of it to just wake you up. And sometimes it might mean taking the very difficult decision about the direction of your career. Staying in a role or path that consistently drains your energy can limit your growth, but can also limit your potential. But also at the same time, Passion must be guided by discipline. Careers are not built on what we feel in the moment, but on what we do consistently over time. Passion gives you energy, but discipline gives you progress. And the most successful professionals are those who are able to combine both. They care deeply, but they also execute in a very consistent way. So as you reflect on your own career progression, there are 3 things I want you to think about. Number 1, are you still learning, or have you settled into your comfort? Number 2, are you stretching yourself, or you are simply sustaining yourself? Number 3, are you investing in others, or you are focused only in personal achievement? Because ultimately, passion is not just about what you do, it's about growing through what you do. At the end of the day, careers are built on passion, they are built on purpose, they are career that inspire, they are career that endure, they are career that makes a difference. This session will not be complete without recognizing the sovereignty of God, and I started with that at the beginning. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 11 says, the race is not to the swift, the battle is not to the strong. It said time and chance happens to them all. Except the Lord builds the house, the people who are laboring, they are doing so in vain. After we have taken responsibility and done all, process, purpose, passion, it is God who validates. He is the one that opens a door that no man is able to close, and is the one that closes a door that no man is able to open. Paul plants, Apollo waters, except the Lord grants the increase. Those who are laboring, they are doing so in vain. Or is it the case of Nehemiah, who had the big task of rebuilding the broken down wall? And while he was praying, he said, God, let your gracious hand be on me. Or is it the case of Jehoshaphat as the king in 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 12, when they were confronted by the many nations? And he declared and he said, our God, will you not judge them? For we have no power to face this vast army that is attacking us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. And God said, you will not need to fight this battle. I will fight on your behalf. Human responsibility, God's sovereignty, they go hand in hand. Process, passion, purpose, ultimately, God is the one who blesses. So how do we converge in the convergence? Let's talk about the convergence triangle. Process without purpose is bureaucracy. Purpose without passion is idealism. Passion without process is chaos. But when all 3 converge, process, purpose, passion, you build leaders, institutions that are capable of sustainable prosperity. And this mirrors the core philosophy of the Convergence Conference, moving professionals from potential to performance, from plateau to progress. The future will not belong to the loudest. It will not belong to the fastest or to the most visible. It will belong to those who deliberately build systems, remain anchored in purpose, and sustain the passion to execute year after year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, would like to take 2 questions, just 2 questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the applause does not measure up to the presentation and the wisdom. That was profound. Obi Ivy, what do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely indeed. And it will interest you to know that in 2024, Mr. Leye completed a bivocational certificate program in Christian ministry from Clear Creek Baptist Bible College, Kentucky, USA. So he is grounded in the word. He is a marketplace apostle, if you like. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take 2 questions. Oscar will go into the audience and take 2 random
So
questions
I have a gentleman
very quickly.
there.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
My name is Anete Hansen. I'm a safety professional. So I basically also manage vessel and marine operations. Okay, and also I'm an author. So I wrote a book titled Safety Moments for Executives. So I have a gift for you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so sir, here is my question. It's going to be a bit personal. Of recent, you became the CEO of LNG. So I want to find out, was that an ambition? Or you just stumbled into it? Because sometimes it seems like our ambition can be challenged. Was there any time it was an ambition? Was it challenged? And how do you move into there? Because I know you came from Brunei LNG. And for me, I believe Brunei as a country seems to be more doing well. I don't know. But yeah, why do you not leave then?
Why did you leave Brunei?
All of a sudden, you now came to LNG and I don't know. But that's just my question. So I just really wanted to throw more light into that. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Anita Hansen is my name.
Thank you very much, Anete.
All right. Can I take the second
Yes, sir.
one straight away, and then I'll take the two of them together?
Okay, my name is Oscar Ibekwe, and I'm an investment professional. Thank you so much, sir, for everything you've taught. And my question is just simple. How do we distinguish between ambition rooted in calling and ambition rooted in ego? And does the market even care about the difference?
Deep. It's very deep. Oh, deep gone. All the best, sir.
All right. No, thank you very much. Fantastic question. So let me start with Anete. Being MD CEO of NLNG, was it an ambition? No, it wasn't. It is an outcome. It's an outcome. It's an outcome. It's not an ambition, it's an outcome. It's an outcome. It's an outcome. If you ask me, and I think I mentioned that today, so I'm parented with Shell, and by God's grace, end of this year, November, will make it 30 years I've been working for Shell. It doesn't look like it. I have colleagues here that we all started together with Shell. My brother, Ebiage, we were the same batch. And you remember that when we joined, every year you do your appraisal, they will ask you your pen picture. Do you remember, Ebi? And then they will say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, in 15 years? And of course, it can't appear that you're somebody who is not thinking forward. So you look as far as you can see, and then you say, this is where I want to be. I also came into the company that had a view on how far you can go by what they call your estimated potential. And the potential that I was given when I joined was one that said, I will not rise beyond being a line head. That was what that potential said. I didn't know. It took 2 years to be confirmed. I got confirmed after 2 years. It was then I saw the data. And I remember I froze when I saw it. Because what that meant was that if I work till retirement, I will only be promoted about 3 times, maximum 4 times. But you know what? By the time I had done 13 years in the company, I had exceeded that potential that I was given. I didn't allow it to bother me then. Why? Because when I looked at the money they were paying me, it was good. I said, well, as long as they don't reduce this money, I'm fine. So I'm okay. Let me just continue to be the best version of myself, which was the training that our parents gave us while we were growing up. Every time you are striving to be the best. So that was my ambition. That was my drive. But in terms of where I get to, where I am today is an outcome. I didn't see it. I never saw it. Is this where it's going to end? I don't know. But I can commit to the principles that I have shared on process, on purpose, on passion. If it pleases the Lord to take me beyond here, that's fine. So it's an outcome, it's not an ambition. And why leave Brunei? If I can do what I did in Brunei, why not come and do it in my father's land? You know, so I couldn't say no to it. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't say no to it. I also sensed after I got the offer, thinking about it, praying about it, that this is what God wants me to do. Not because it's going to be the easier of those 2 roles. Both roles are the same. But I just felt this is where God wanted me to be. I made peace with that, and I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much. So, Oscar, you talked about how do we distinguish ambition in one's calling and one that is driven by ego, and does the market really care about it? I think ultimately your test of your ambition is to find out if there is a boundary to your ambition, if there's a limit to it, if there are red lines that ambition will not take you beyond. If there is no line, it's dangerous. If it is to rise at all cost, it's dangerous. Ambition is moderated by godly virtues. I want to, but it's not going to be at all cost. But you also need to recognize that the door of opportunities that opens, they don't belong to you. You can put in all the effort. If that's not God's plan for your life, sorry. So why don't you just stay comfortable in trying to be the best version of yourself and see where that leads you? But to your second question, does the market care? I really don't care if the market cares or not, because the market is not my reference. So Colossians 3 says, whatever you do, he said, do it as unto the Lord, because it's the one that ultimately rewards. You must recognize in your place of work that your success is not going to be defined by the bosses that sit above you. One day you will stand before God and give account of your life. That's what you should care about.
Absolutely.
So it's not what the market cares. And why that is so important is that it liberates you to be yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, I think we can stand at this time. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Leye.